Hey, what's up, guys? So let's hang out. It is a Saturday afternoon, so let's just hang out together, spend a little time, and talk about radar detectors. I've got a little bit of time available right now. My daughter's down for a nap, so while she's down, I don't know if it's going to be 45 minutes or an hour and a half or whatever. I figure let's just sit down and talk countermeasures. Now, I've been spending a lot of time recently focusing on the Max 3, and where is it? The Redline 360C. I know a lot of you guys have had questions about the Max 3, the Redline 360C, and I think one of the biggest things is how does the Redline 360C compare to the R7 and the V1 Gen 2? I'd like to actually spend some time doing a video just dedicated to that, as well as kind of doing an updated version of the best radar detectors. And I've been going over the past couple days in my head kind of how I want to approach that topic. And I figure let's go ahead and just start running through things now. And I want to hear your feedback as well. I've got a couple things in my head, kind of my ideas of it. And I also want to hear from you as far as your thoughts on what feature is important to you, kind of some of the stuff, how important is it for this feature or that feature or whatever. But I kind of want to just, let's start running through how all this stuff compares, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking about that. Baby sleeping. Yeah. Luckily, she's way up in a different room. So what's up, Matt? What's up, Kurt? So I figure the way I'm probably going to want to approach the upcoming best radar detectors video, and this is going to be kind of a spoiler, but I'm kind of thinking of like introducing, first, why does it matter? And like, if you spend more for a radar detector, what do you get? Things like, longer range, better false alert filtering, GPS, arrows, RDD immunity, things like that just make for a better experience. And so I'm thinking of actually going in like, okay, let's start with the cheaper detectors and start working our way up. And like, okay, if you spend an extra $50 or $100, what do you get for the money? And I think that might actually be a good way of diving into the subject and explaining the differences and kind of, I guess, to dive right into it. And I'm going to have links in the video description down to like my reviews of all the different detectors I talk about, links to where you can pick them up, all that kind of stuff. But as far as this one, I'm thinking as far as how to introduce it, saying if you want, like, let's start with the basic one, right? So like under $100, not a lot of great options. Under $200, my favorite one, I'd say Uniden DFR7. Good performance, reasonable blind spot filtering, and GPS for lockouts and stuff, but no arrows. It's kind of a basic detector, but it's kind of one of the better basic detectors, Then if you want to spend more, going from like under 200 to under 300, then you're moving into like Uniden R3 territory. So better range, better false alert filtering, MRCD, color display, all that kind of stuff. So nice big jump. And this, I think, is probably kind of one of the minimums I would recommend people to start with. So R3, $300, hard to go wrong with that. Then moving up to the next price point, I'm thinking of like, okay, under $400. Now there's the Max 3, this one, and this has been surprisingly good so far. It's not perfect. There's still some stuff I'd like to see them fix. And assuming they get everything up to par and stuff, it's got great range. It seems better BSM filtering than the R3, which is one of the biggest advantages. Plus your auto lockouts, your cloud alerts, speed limit on the display, I think is kind of nice. It's not stealth like the R3 pretty much is, but it does have like the MRCD and MRCT, which needs to be tested. But for the extra $100, you're basically getting better blind spot filtering and auto lockouts, and I guess the cloud stuff too. So for the more plug and play experience, that would be the advantage here with the Max 3. So that's kind of where I'm leaning to that. Then as we start going up, you've got for $450, so another $50 more, you've got the Pro M. Range sometimes is a little bit lacking, but it's also got really good BSM filtering. And I think this is the one, if you want the best MRCD stuff, so like you guys in Canada, for example, this seems to be a good option. It's tiny. It's a lot smaller than the Max 3, you can see. So it's tiny, it's RDD immune, and it's got the MRCD stuff. I think that's kind of a smaller subset, people who want a compact detector and you need MRCD. Not a lot of us in the US need it yet, but it's really good that they're working on it. And I mean, Escort's working on it now, Unident's working on it, Stinger, a lot of companies are. I hope Valentine really gets on it too. But I don't know how many people need that quite yet, but that seems to be kind of the gold standard, at least for those of you guys who experience MRCD all the time. The Redenso Pro M is usually the one to get. Then moving on from 450 to 500, that's when you start getting into detectors that have arrows. I know there's the Cobra Dual Pro 360 for 450, but usually for the arrows, it's kind of, you start getting into like V1 Gen 2 territory or Uniden R7. And that's been an interesting discussion. It's like, okay, R7 versus V1 Gen 2. And I've done a video about that when the V1 came out. And one of the biggest things I'm finding is like, how do you explain this stuff really simply, And I've been going back and forth in my head of like, what's the simplest way to explain all this? I think the R7 is going to be the best way to go for a lot of people. If you just want a detector to plug in the windshield, great range, GPS is built in, reasonable BSM filtering, not the best, but okay. MRCD support, all that kind of stuff. This, I think, is a pretty good option for a lot of people if you just want something simpler. It's kind of, I guess, where the Max 360 stands for $500 as well. That one has better BSM filtering, but this one has the range. So it's maybe kind of a back and forth there. But the R7, I think, is super popular just because you get such great range here for the money. Then for people who are like, you're really an enthusiast and you're like, hey, I like the R7, but I want the better BSM filtering. Maybe I want something that's completely undetectable. This can be kind of detectable by the Spectre. That's not something that a lot of people would necessarily need. But if you want the stealth, you want better BSM filtering, and you want the option for auto lockouts, that I think is where the V1 Gen 2 comes into play. And this I think is a really good, well-rounded package, especially when you pair it with the phone. I know there's a lot of discussion about the phone stuff, and to be clear, you don't need a phone to use this detector. You can run it by itself, and it's going to do awesome for you. I mean, especially in the highway, good long-range performance, great BSM filtering. The update that recently came out improved the BSM filtering. I was running with it yesterday. I was still getting some Mazda falsing, and even from pretty far away, but good range, good BSM filtering, and Valentine has savvy for low-speed muting, so you can kind of keep it quiet around town. I think probably one of the biggest things that it's lacking is, well, the GPS, so no red light camera alerts, and you can't get auto lockouts or lockouts in general. And that, I think, with this one, probably one of the biggest things that would prevent me from getting it if I was to say I don't want to use it with the phone. I kind of need the phone with this, like for me, yes, you can do low speed muting, but I've got speed signs on the highways or shopping centers near me on the highway that I want to lock out that I just can't do here. And low speed muting is not going to help. Or speed signs on the side of the road. I have a lot of speed signs. I don't want to have to set my low speed muting high enough to be muting all those. I would rather have lockouts. I do use JBV1, and I even run it standalone with a lot of these other detectors, and it gives me the lockouts and stuff, but I've been having issues with like my phone either overheating if I'm parked out in the summertime, or the battery dies because it's quarantine and not driving a lot. So now I got to make sure the phone battery is died or it's powered up and stuff. And so I just keep running into issues where I just want it to work. And this has a lot of awesome stuff, but it doesn't just always work smoothly and cleanly, So I really like the features, but it doesn't just give me the simple, just always works kind of experience. And I mean, you can always run V1 Driver, and that works better because it uses my iPhone, which I always have, but then I don't have the frequency display that I want. So it's just, there's a lot of things like great features, but I keep just coming back to it. I can't quite get it to do what I want, even though it has a ton of awesome features. So I think this is a great option. I really, really like it. And I think for people who are super into like messing with your phone and making sure it's with you, I think it's a great option. I really like it. And I'm not a Cannonball guy, but I think if I was to go run a Cannonball, I would run this with JBV1. So like if you really want to be on it and pay attention, this is what I'm grabbing. So yeah, better BSM filtering than the R7, and you can get the auto lockouts if you pair it with the phone, and it's stealth. So, but the R7, you don't have to mess with the phone, and you still get good range, but you are going to get some more false alerts, and the lockouts are going to be manual. So kind of trade-offs, That's where those seem to come into play. And then I guess moving up to the most expensive option, the Redline 360C, this one $750. So $250 more than the V1 Gen 2 or the R7, but you're kind of getting sort of the best of both worlds. I mean, you're getting long-range performance just like those two, but you're also getting really good BSM filtering like the V1 Gen 2. I think this one's better, actually, the BSM filtering. You've got the auto lockouts built in. It's kind of just an easier, more plug-and-play version of the V1 Gen 2. It's also RDD immune, plus you've got the Wi-Fi built in for the cloud alerts or the easier updates. I mean, this is just an easier-to-use package, and this has been one of the biggest questions. I know, Matt, you're saying, is the Redline worth the price difference? And I've been having a really hard time. I even did a video on, is the Redline 360C worth it? And that question is really going to depend. It's going to vary for everybody, but I mean, for me, this is the closest thing I have yet to replacing shelves versus, shelves full of radar detectors, or maybe even this thing, the V1 Gen 2 with JBV1. This I think is really good as well. If I had to narrow it down to two detectors, I think it would be down to these two. I really like the R7. Don't get me wrong, but I just really want the BSM filtering to be better. That's the biggest thing. And I noticed that every single time I go for a drive, instead of just getting more false alerts here. And other detectors are just pushing the envelope. They're doing a better job. And there's other detectors that also give you great range, but the fact that they're quieter with the BSM filtering, I really noticed that, and I really like that. So that's kind of where I start to see the differences coming into play. And then the question of, okay, well, Jonathan, you're saying Redline 360C versus Max 3, very different detectors. I mean, Redline 360C adds the arrows, it adds the Wi-Fi, the RDD immunity. It's definitely a better detector, but it's also almost twice the price. None of these detectors are perfect, but I mean, this is I think the closest thing we have right now to just a plug and play detector that just kind of does everything on its own. The R7 is kind of lacking. The V1 Gen 2 can come pretty close. I think it's the closest thing we have right now to the Redline 360C, but you got to pair it with the phone. So I think that's kind of where things stand now. And I know that was a lot of information to just sort of dump out, and without the visuals of showing you the detectors other than holding them up. I know it's a lot of information. So hopefully that was okay, but that's kind of where things stand so far. And I'm curious, like from you guys, what you think as far as the best detector, or even which compromise. Like some of you guys are saying, hey, I'm happy with the R7. I really like the R7. Some people, okay, Redline too rich for my blood. Totally understandable. And I think that's going to be really interesting when Thea comes out, because Thea is probably going to be more expensive than the Redline 360C is. And this is currently the most expensive detector out there. There's a lot, of course, that we don't know about Thea yet. It's still in development, and we can't do a direct comparison. But assuming they actually eliminate the BSM filtering, which they haven't done here, assuming the range is good, the stealth is good. Thea's going to offer an open API, just like the V1 does, which is huge. Like, the open API is so smart. Like, Mike Valentine, props to you for introducing the open API. That's done wonders here for the V1 Gen 1 and now the Gen 2. I know Thea wants to do the same as well, and that's just going to offer so many additional possibilities and capabilities to the detector. The detector alone is going to do a lot, but then the open API, pair it with your iPhone to do even more if you want. But I think Thea is not going to be as dependent on the phone as the Valentine 1 Gen 2, because it's going to have GPS. It's not going to have to worry about a lot of the BSM filtering and stuff. So Thea is going to be a lot more standalone and capable on its own. And then you're going to be able to pair it with the phone. Like, I'm sure it's going to have JBV1 support. They've already been talking about that. And just to add a bunch more, like, based on what we know so far, yes, I expect Thea to be better than the Redline 360C. But of course, as always, the big caveat is it doesn't exist yet. We haven't tested it, and we're just kind of going off of what we've seen so far with development stuff. And I just want to say thank you to Redenso, actually, for being so open with sharing as you guys are building the detector and learning and putting it all together. It, of course, takes time. It takes a while to build a detector. I think it's awesome that they're being so open to help teach us, how all this stuff works and what it's like building a detector. I'm definitely curious. And so it's cool to see them, while they're actually developing Thea, sharing what they found along the way. So it's an interesting question. You guys have been asking, should I get the Redline 360C or should I hold off for Thea? Man, I've seen a lot of people who are saying I'm going to hold off for Thea. I've seen a lot of people saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get a Redline 360C because it does a lot of what I need now. Maybe I'll look into Thea and I'll get that too. Maybe sell the Redline. So that's one thing where I see a lot of going back and forth, and it just comes down to what you're looking for. I mean, the Redline 360C, the V1 Gen 2, the R7, they're already available now. Thea isn't, so these ones can already go ahead and protect you. But Thea is probably going to be better than everything we have yet. And to be fair, I guess that's always, there's going to be a new iPhone. There's going to be a new Samsung Galaxy, whatever, the new OnePlus. Like, there's always going to be new stuff coming out that's likely going to be better than anything we have now. And that's just new product development. There's always new stuff coming. So yeah, spend it now, spend it later, whatever, I guess. I mean, that's always going to happen. So I guess it comes down to personal preferences on that one. Jonathan, you're asking, can you explain what an open API is? Yes, definitely. That's a great question, and that's super important. It's basically giving other people the ability to connect to your radar detector and communicate with it and add some different functionality. The drive inside. Hey, thank you for the super chat. I got the R7. Okay, cool. So let's talk about R7 stuff next. But coming back, Jonathan, to your open API question, they're basically saying we're going to develop a way for other developers, for other people to talk to our detector directly. And so Valentine did it. there's Bluetooth available, and then you can pair your phone over Bluetooth to the detector, and then anybody can write an app to talk to the detector and add in different features for logging different alerts, for changing settings automatically as you drive. It can start changing the V1 for you. It can do a little bit more analysis to figure, oh, this is a false alert, I should filter it out. This is a blind spot false. This is a stationary false. It's basically giving other people the ability to make their detector better and add functionality. I'm surprised Escort hasn't done this. They have Bluetooth in their detector, but they refuse to let other people talk to their detectors and add functionality for them for free and make their products better. They're afraid, I think, of people trying to like capitalize on Escort Live and take away from it. And there's been discussion about that on the forums, why they don't want to do it. I think it's crazy to not offer an open API and just let other people make your detector better for free for you. But that's just my opinion. Like, it's been amazing there, and it's just going to add a ton of extra functionality for the Redenso Thea when that comes out too. So yeah, it's basically just allowing other people to communicate to your detector and add some features for it. The drive-in side, super chat. Okay. I've got the R7 and I'm in the Midwest where it's pretty flat landscape. Is the range that much better? Love the channel. Thanks for helping us all. Thank you. Yeah, so that's interesting. If you're in the situation, the Jones, whiskey time. Yes, it is. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. Do you need long-range detection in super flat terrain? Not necessarily. I think that's one of the situations where you can probably get by with the less sensitive detector. Flat terrain signals can travel for miles and miles and miles, and therefore even a detector with less sensitivity can still give you a ton of range. The situation where that extra range can become useful is an officer who wants to do instant on, and if he's turning his radar gun on and off periodically. In that situation, maybe your only alert is going to be the officer 5, 6, 8 miles down the road, and you're going to get the alert, and then you're not going to get an alert for a couple minutes until you get closer. That's a situation where the extra sensitivity can make a difference, but in general, especially against constant on, your detector may be screaming for 5, 10 minutes as you're getting closer. So you don't necessarily need the craziest range ever, but it helps. It helps. But that could be an area to where maybe you could save some money if the officers are using constant on and you got really flat terrain. Yeah, you can get away with a less sensitive detector in that situation. So have a shot for me. Yeah, no. Life is good. We're actually about to go hang out with friends after this once Luna wakes up. It's been good here at home. And actually, how have you guys been doing with quarantine and just all of that in general? I know it's still kind of crazy. Just at least for us, we're starting to just accept this is life now, and okay, let's do it. Working, spending time here with my family, walking the dog. Just life is different. I have less time for videos, but that's life. No daycare, helping take care of the baby. Quarantine sucks. I've been wanting out. Yeah, it's not the ideal situation, but eventually I guess you're just like, this is life and you just got to move forward. Paul, kill me, it sucks. WKR Piper, drinking Buffalo Trace here. How about you? Cool. I always forget. I get Jack Daniels and Johnny Walker confused all the time, but Johnny Walker Black Label right now. I tried the double black the other day. I didn't really like it. I prefer just the regular Black Label. Crazy down in Georgia. Oh, Clem, Florida, another hurricane. How are you guys doing with the hurricane? I know it's I think over the Bahamas right now. It's coming up. But, yeah. Lawrence Alston, Super Chat donation. Thank you for the Super Chat. I appreciate that, Lawrence. MRCD and MRCT, any new information? So I don't have the multi-radar here, so I can't go out and test it. I wish I did just so I can go and test it, But, yes, so I actually just got a second Redline 360C because the other one that I sent out to the Texas Countermeasure Testing Group, they're testing it, and they're going to be sending it out to Canada next. I've still got a lot more testing, so I picked up another one to keep doing testing and stuff. Now, my other Redline 360C is heading up to Canada. They're going to be doing MRCD testing with it. And I'm really curious to see how it compares to the Redenso Pro M, which I talked about earlier as kind of the gold standard. How does that one compare? I would love to see him also test the Max 3 because it offers MRCD. Maybe if you guys are watching this, let me know. I can send it up there too. I want to do a review of the Max 3. I've done a review on my website, but I haven't done the video. I'll probably start working on the video review of the Max 3 next week. But yeah, the article is on my website now. And I'll be updating it when I get more MRCD information. I did the Spectre testing I posted earlier. But yeah, so MRCD stuff is coming once they get the chance to test the Redline 360C. Lawrence, any info on the R7 and auto lockouts? I talked about it actually. My video this past week, new and updated radar detectors. I do a section on the R7 and I actually talk specifically about auto lockouts, about patents expiring, patents being extended, the lawsuit that just wrapped up between Escort and Uniden. So I actually just did a video on that. You can take a look in there. Paul, test the MRCT separately from the MRCD as well if you can. Yeah, they definitely do perform differently. That would be cool if somebody in Chicago or wherever you have the MRCT specifically has the ability to test that one. You're totally right. It is different than MRCD. Paul's saying the Redenso detectors right now completely sucks when it comes to MRCT. Yes, they do. I've noticed that false is a lot more the detection against MRCT, which I believe is the newer one. MRCD is a little bit older. The Redenso does seem to do better against MRCD, which is the one that seems to be used more often. MRCT, not as good. So that's always one of the things where I'm dependent on you guys who have them in the area to actually do the testing and say which one is better, you know? And then I turn around and say, well, go look at this guy's test. He actually tested them. Here's the results on which ones are better. So Terry Hopkins, any news on Thea? In development, they're back in the office now, I think, still working on it. They're keeping us posted on their YouTube channel, but nothing as far as like release dates or anything. They're still saying 2020 though, which is great. So I believe COVID is slowing down the work on Thea. It is. It's Redline 360C. Yeah, it's on back order right now. They are still shipping them out. This was a back ordered unit that I got. So that's, I know, slowed down stuff. The TMG is out of stock for a while due to COVID. Redenso Pro M is out of stock for a while due to COVID. Like, it's definitely affecting things just across the board. So it's, yeah, yay, COVID. Mehi of you. Let's see, view the IXC. Yeah, somebody was asking about the IXC. Marcus Olds, you as well. I tested it. I know it had some issues with 34/7 detection. I set it off for repair. I was going to actually test it again, but my display is dead right now on the IXC, so I can't actually do some testing with it because I can't send it back right now to Escort for repairs for a second time due to COVID. So I'm kind of stuck. I haven't done a review of the IXC, and I can't really test it properly. The IXC, I'm not sure if it's being discontinued. It's a newer, better platform, but it doesn't have the Wi-Fi, and it's $50 cheaper. It would make sense to see them maybe do it and do like a Max 3C maybe or something. I think the IXC is still available. I don't know if it's been officially discontinued or if it's going to be. But yeah. Fave for Rav. Every time my wife sees me watching your video, she comments, we have the same light in our living room. Which one? That one? I think it's like an IKEA light or something. New database update for the Uniden. Yeah, they released new updates for their red light camera database. Redenso does it, Uniden does it, Escort does it. There's definitely database updates that happen a lot more frequently than firmware updates. Let's see. V1. I'd like to know V1 Gen 2 or R7. I talked about that. That was pretty much the introduction of the video. R7 is kind of your more plug and play kind of, so to speak, option. GPS is built in. V1 requires a phone, but you get better BSM filtering and you get auto lockouts and you get RDD immunity. So if you need any of those three features, like good BSM filtering, I think is the biggest one, use the V1. But you're kind of tied to a phone and you wind up having some trade-offs there. Yeah, the PL4, Einzel Wolf, got a new PL4. So I haven't really had a chance to mess with it. Let's grab this. I'd like to do a video on it, actually. I sold my PL3, upgraded to a PL4 that I found on the forums. This is nice. I really like it. It seems better balanced than the PL3. The handle, it's slimmer. The PL3, it was kind of a bigger, rounder handle. This one just feels better in the hand. It seems actually better balanced. It shoots exactly the same as the PL3, so in terms of jamming and everything, it's identical. Buttons are different. Display is different. Power it on real quick. So green display instead of, I think it was green back and black text. Now this is black text or black back and green text. Whatever. Contrast is better. Just nice stuff. So I'd like to do a video on it at some point. Self-test complete. But that's kind of just pushed way down the list just because I got so much other stuff I'm working on. Super chats. Thanks, guys. Let's talk about these next. Uniden R1 for highway commuting. Wanted to put just KA on and save $100 for R3. Totally. If you're not going to be reliant on K-band, this is also, I think, a really good one for California. And this is always one of those situations where there's exceptions to the rules. And so I've got my general recommendations. But yeah, if you're going to be running with K-band turned off, 100%, just go get yourself an R1 for $200. Amazing performance. It doesn't have arrows. It doesn't have the great filtering, but you're turning off K-band anyway, so who cares? $200 for top-notch performance, 100%. Get that all day long. Like, that's amazing. You don't have the GPS for the red light camera stuff, but you're probably running Waze or Google Maps or something anyway, so you have that. Get the R1 all day long. And that's, yeah, a great one for California where it's all Ka-band for the most part. You can just shut off X and K-band, run Ka all day long. The only reasons I guess you'd want to upgrade is if you want like arrows or you want the red light camera alerts in the detector or something. But other than that, yeah, R1 is awesome. Blend43, thanks so much for that. I appreciate that super chat. Apache, BSM between Redline 360C and V1 Gen 2. That's actually something specifically that I'm really wanting to find out. I ran the V1 the other day. Oh man, my daughter's waking up. So I may have to go here pretty soon. Looks like she had a short nap. We'll see. Hopefully, maybe she can fall back asleep for another round of naps. But that's kind of going back and forth. I haven't run the Redline 360C in a little while because I sent my first one out for repairs and I just got my V1 Gen 2 updated. So I got to spend time actually running them and getting more familiar with them. I mentioned earlier that I did run this, the V1, I think yesterday for about an hour, mostly back roads, but I had, I think just one BSM false. It was a Mazda CX-5 and it's just false constantly. It was, the car could be like several, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred feet up the road, like several cars ahead of me, and it just kept falsing. I put in advanced logic, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just, I'm really curious to see how much better the Mazda filtering is with the Redline 360C. I've had pretty good results with it, but I don't remember. I need to spend some more time running it. That's, I think, one of the biggest things that I'm looking at. But you got your GM falses, Cadillacs, that kind of stuff here too. So that's something that I wish there was a really easy way to test other than just running a detector and driving for a while and then switching and driving for a while and switching and driving for a while. There's not an easy way to just bam, 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 do like a Spectre test or a red barn test. You know, you just have to drive for a while and hope you come across some cars that false or not and see. So, but yeah, so far it seems like the Redline does have the edge, but I definitely need to do more testing, especially with the new update with the V1. Lawrence, thanks for the super chat. ALP versus Polyscan, how effective? That's a tricky one. The Polyscan, usually they're fixed kind of photo LiDAR systems for you guys who aren't familiar. They are used here in the US, but they're mostly used internationally. Those ones you do kind of have to like modify the heads, do things like, especially shooting in the rear, you don't just have the heads pointed straight, you have them pointed out at an angle like this. And then doing some other stuff, sometimes with the front heads as well. So you do have to modify the heads different than if an officer was just using a handheld laser gun like this. So the setup has to be different. It can work, but it can be kind of tricky, especially with placement and stuff. It does have to be done differently. But yeah, they are trickier. And you're not a lot of times going to be getting like a lot of advanced warning because it may just be you pass it and boom, you get the shot instantly. You don't really get much advanced warning. Sometimes maybe you'll get some scatter or something. That can definitely happen because the ALPs are so sensitive, maybe off of another car ahead of you. But yeah, they can be kind of tough. Paul, it's pretty effective if angled right, but the angle placement for Polyscan means you have to compromise on regular guns. Yeah, that's one of the new things. Kurt, great question. Any new dash cams coming out by chance? I'm glad you asked because I happen to have sitting here the Blackview DR, what is this? The DR750 LTE. It's still got the plastic on it and everything. I haven't taken it off yet. Let's actually here. Peel off the plastic. So I just got this in yesterday. I haven't posted the pictures on Instagram or anything yet or on Facebook. But yeah, this one just came out. This is going to be at the end of August. I think it's going to start shipping. They're available for pre-order. It's basically a DR750S, but bigger. It's like a brick. Yeah, there's a lot more heating vents all the way around it. You guys know the issues with the DR900S, the 4K one, overheating. So now they're starting to add a lot more heating vents, and this one has an LTE chip. You basically like pop in a SIM card, and it does all the cloud stuff built in. Instead of actually relying on a Wi-Fi hotspot that you put in your car or tethering off your phone or something. So you just plug it into power, and then it has its own data connection essentially for all the cloud stuff. I still need to install it. You can see it's, again, just still sitting here. So I'm going to install it and start testing it over the next couple of weeks. And I want to do a basically review and see how does it compare to, you know, the DR750S or the DR900S. Basically built-in LTE versus separate Wi-Fi hotspot for cloud stuff. So I kind of want to do a video on that. Does it have parking mode? Yeah, it's got all the same stuff. The parking mode capabilities, the cloud stuff, the GPS, the Wi-Fi, it's all still there. It's just it has its own LTE chip, and it's bigger just to, I guess, prevent overheating. It's got more vents and stuff. It is fairly heavy. It's definitely bigger and bulkier, so I'm going to have to see about placement of my car, and that'll be interesting running both of them, this and the DR900 up front at the same time. But yeah, video coming on this at some point. I need to spend a little bit of time driving with it, playing with it, collecting sample footage, all that. Video quality, it's exactly the same as the DR750S. So 1080p, Sony Sarvis, good low light, that kind of stuff. But yeah, 2-channel. I think all the cables and stuff are the same here too. So if you want to swap it out for the DR750, pretty much plug and play. But it does have a different mount here, so you are going to need a different mount. But otherwise, cables and stuff are the same. So just another fun thing to play with. Man down, how was the road trip to pick up your mother-in-law? I actually didn't go. We canceled last minute due to COVID. That was right when everything was shutting down. So she flew here, but all her stuff still to this day is sitting in storage in Georgia. So she's here with us in quarantine, and yeah, all her stuff is still there in Georgia. So interesting situation. Eventually, they actually just raised the price of her storage unit a couple days ago, which sucks. And we're like, well, we can't do anything about it. We got to wait for COVID to finish or whatever, so we can go back and finally get her stuff when she moves into her place, you know? So we're in this weird quarantine middle ground situation. But yeah, I'll go back eventually. Glad she's safe. Thank you. Yeah, me too. That's the big thing. So wearing masks, hanging out here at home, social distancing, washing hands like crazy, hand sanitizer, all the stuff that we're all doing, you know? Danny. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate that. And yeah, you're welcome. Got the text. My daughter's awake, but my mom's actually playing with Luna now, kind of keeping her company. So I'm able to keep live streaming. So yay, thanks, Mom. It's actually really nice having her here for the social aspect. She helps a lot because we're not sending her to daycare. And yeah, she gets to spend time with her granddaughter. Luna's getting close to walking now. She took her kind of first steps today with the walker, just holding it and getting cool. She's able to start holding herself up or pulling herself up. It's awesome. I'm a happy dad. So anyway, back to radar detectors and not talking about babies. Okay, so Matthew Miranda, is K-band popular? I feel like all my falses are K-band and only real alerts are KA. That's a great question. In a lot of places, K-band is really actively used. In some places, it's almost never used. We talked earlier how K-band is pretty much completely gone in California. Here in Washington State, there's still a couple spots that use K-band, but it's almost all KA around here. In some places, it's almost completely K-band, you know, so it really varies. And you totally may be seeing almost all KA-band. Yeah, and K-band, in Florida, you're talking about that. I believe there is K-band. I've heard a couple reports of K-band in Florida. There's been discussion, oh, you should turn it off. No, it's definitely still in use there. So, yeah, lots of K-band used in Missouri. Nothing but K-band when I'm in Pennsylvania. K-band is active in small Texas towns. Yep. Andy also saying K-band in Texas. So it's still used all over. It really depends on where you are. And same thing, radar versus laser usage or different bands. Lots of K-band in Rhode Island. So yeah, really depends. John, will the new Redenso have arrows? Yes. Easy. Let's see. I found some of the sheriffs in Washington use the Raptor RP1 with K-band. They do, yeah. They use them in Kirkland. They use them in Issaquah. They've been using them for a while. So Raptor RP1s and Falcon HRs, they definitely use them. Still a lot in Georgia and Ohio. Yeah. Night Owl Tech is saying it's a mix here. New England still says K-band. So totally, yeah. It's, as you guys can see, it's still used all over the country. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things I'm seeing with the newer detectors. It's not just, oh my gosh, amazing range. Like you look at them. If you want amazing range, go get an R1. $200, done. But a lot of the stuff, it starts getting into, do you want range and really good BSM filtering? Do you want the GPS or the arrows or the Bluetooth or all these other features, right? It's not just the long range stuff. And one of the big things I'm seeing now with the newer detectors is, can you detect K-band well while still also filtering out false alerts? None of them can do it perfectly, but that's one of the biggest differences I'm seeing now with a lot of these newer, better detectors, is they can detect K-band well and still minimize false alerts. Thea should pretty much, hopefully, ideally filter out all of those, especially the BSM specifically. There may be some situations where Thea is going to false in situations where if you have a speed sign, and in the speed sign, they're using a police radar gun, a legit custom Falcon or a whatever, if they're using a police radar gun inside, it's going to register to Thea as a police radar gun, and it's going to alert. And so in that situation, it may false, but it's detecting a legit police radar gun. A lot of them use different radar guns. A lot of them just operate very differently, which is why a lot of times your detector may not even alert to it at all, not even Thea, but just normal ones. They drift in frequency. They fall out of spec. They don't have to be calibrated and in tune the way legit police radar guns do that are going to be used to issue tickets. They don't have to be as spot on. They're just there to like, oh, hey, you're going fast, slow down, whatever. So they may fall out of the spec and nobody cares. They just let them do that. So they may not actually operate like a normal radar gun, and therefore your detector may not alert to it. So there's all sorts of weird things with speed signs. So that's always kind of an interesting edge case that we see with a lot of this kind of stuff. Let's see. Kim Chappell Kim is asking, what do you recommend for a detector without false K-band alerts? Everything's going to false to K-band. Everything. That's, I think, probably one of the biggest selling points of Thea. It's probably going to be the best detector to help with that. But until today, the Redline 360C seems to be doing pretty awesome. Definitely better than the Max 3. I like the Redline 360C better. The V1 Gen 2 is great, especially when you pair it with the phone. Those, I think, are probably the best two. The Escorts should be getting better, like the Max 360 or 360C, when they get the new K-notch feature, like we have in the Max 3 and the Redline 360C. They're going to be adding that, which is going to help. But I still find the Redline 360C to be better than the Max 360 series detectors. So the best ones that I'm seeing right now, I think, are the Redline 360C and the V1 Gen 2. That said, I know the Redenso Pro M has historically been pretty good about this. I haven't run it in a while, so I want to actually start running this again and really get a sense of how the BSM filtering compares here. I just a lot of times get annoyed. The barrel connector, it always displays 24-150, so I'm still trying to figure out, is it a Honda or is it a Mazda or is it a GM or whatever it is it's falsing. I'm sometimes kind of struggling to figure out what's going on. No arrows, no accurate frequency display. And I get it. People are like, who needs an accurate frequency display? I use it. I love it. I find it super useful. Not everybody does. Cool. But yeah, a lot of times I find myself not really getting the information the way that I want. So yeah. Alonso Keen. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. And sorry, I'm Russian. I read really slowly, but Dobre Utra or Dobry Dzień, whatever time it is there. I don't know. Alex, any issues with the Pro M in terms of speed cam detection? Mine always alerts when I've passed it. Is it alerting to radar? Is it laser? Is it GPS? How is it actually triggering to those speed cameras? Let me know. Let's see. Kurt, amazing how it seems the new R7 went to the top as soon as it came out, and now we're only talking about the new Redline and Thea with little talk of the new Valentine. I think the Valentine is still definitely worth talking about. It's kind of like a cheaper version of the Redline 360C if you're cool with pairing it with the phone. That might be the simplest way to explain it. $250 less. Again, still great range. BSM filtering, auto lockouts, RDD immunity, updating over your phone. Great. But you're tied to your phone. Not everybody wants to do that. And I'm cool with the phone stuff, but I still run into issues too. So that's, I think, probably one of the biggest things back and forth. But I think the Valentine definitely deserves credit. And it's right up there too with the Redline or all these other detectors as far as being one of the best detectors, like 100%. No MRCD. Not everybody needs that here in the US. So, pick the features you want, I guess. Jonathan, any idea how long it takes the Redline 360C to get it when it's on back order? When I ordered my second one, it took me, 2 weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, something like that to get it. If you're ordering now, Escort is really, they're not able to say definitively when they're going to be able to do it. It's pretty much first come, first served. I think they're saying sometime like mid-August right now is the last I heard. So maybe 2 weeks, maybe faster or slower. But yeah, so we're trying to see. Let's see. Bram, nobody's seen Thea out in the wild. So far, all we know is PR talk. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And you're right. All we've seen so far is stuff that they've shared themselves and shared at Thea. I've had a chance to see Thea kind of working under the hood. And one of the coolest things was they showed it in Thea actually classifying different radar guns. You could shoot a Falcon HR and it would tell you it's a Falcon HR. It could shoot, it would tell you it's a B3 or a door opener. If they can tell what continuous wave radar gun is operating, you can tell those extremely small, minute differences. BSM filtering is a piece of cake. MRCD versus MRCT versus Gatso versus Redflex, Mesta Fusion, Mazda, Honda, Acura, Cadillac. Piece of cake to tell. If they can tell the difference between those radar guns, like, I'm not concerned about it at all. But to be fair, we got to see. You never know for sure. We have to actually see what it's like in practice. But if they can do stuff that's way more difficult than differentiating different BSMs, I'm not worried about it at all. But you're totally right. We still have to see what it's actually like in practice. And so we'll have to see what it's like. But yeah, it definitely looks exciting and extremely impressive from what they've been able to do so far. And that was 6 months ago, 8 months, a year, whenever SEMA was, I don't know. The stuff they can do already, and it's really impressive. They're doing stuff that I've never seen any other detector come close to. So definitely impressive. And so to me, I think it's more than just hype that they can't follow through. I actually think they're going to be able to deliver. But again, we always have to see and have a test and see what they actually deliver, because this looked really promising at first and then had a lot of issues. I mean, this was really good too, but then had issues too, which they're still trying. So we really have to see what it's actually like in practice. You know, the marketing and PR stuff, and even if they have a lot of stuff that's super promising initially, we have to see what it's like in terms of what they actually deliver. Does that make sense? So, yeah. Kurt, I don't know if I want my radar detector talking to me all day long. Of course. Yeah, you can have a display stalker, you can have it display the frequency, or just not display at all. Let's see. EPWAP. Vortex, I know you said laser detection and a radar detector is just a ticket notifier, but I've beaten LiDAR several times with just an RX65. For me, jammers aren't worth the cost. Totally. You can get saves totally with a radar detector. It can absolutely happen, especially if you get it before you speed up. But the chances of that happening are pretty low. And it's kind of one of those things, is like, just to completely make up numbers for the sake of example, do you want to use something that's going to protect you 5% of the time, or that will protect you 95% of the time? You know, it's like, it can work, but it's not going to be consistent or reliable, and it's not something that you're going to want to put your faith in. Can it work? Absolutely. Will it work reliably, and it's something that you can trust to keep it protected? Not at all. And that's where it comes down to. There's always people who are going to say, hey, you know, I got a scatter save, whatever. Of course you can, but it's not going to give you anywhere remotely close to the same protection of laser jammers. Or honestly, just run Waze. Waze will give you better protection than a radar detector will. So yeah, I mean, can it save you? Yes. Will it do it reliably? Not even close. So that's where that comes into play. What do you think is the best all-around, I guess, windshield mount radar detector if money's no object? I think for most people, Redline 360C. The only caveat right now would be maybe V1 Gen 2 is if you want a lot of the JBV1 stuff, but you can run JBV1 standalone and get the features like the aircraft notifications. You can get alert logging with Escort Live, but it's definitely a lot better in JBV1. So for I would say for really serious driving, V1 Gen 2 with JBV1. For most people, if you don't want to mess around with apps and figuring all that stuff out, Redline 360C. That's, I think, where things kind of stand right now. John Ross, will you elaborate on your immune testing with the Redline 360C? Stealth. All the Redlines are the Escort Redlines are sort of the gold standard when it comes to RDD immunity. So what they do with their Total Shield technology, very effective against Spectre 3, Spectre Elite, Fiji 2, anything. The Redlines are awesome. There's never been any doubt with those. Yeah, they're great in terms of stealth. I don't know if there's much more to elaborate than that. It's fantastic. Matthew Miranda, ceramic tilt affecting the R7. So as long as it's a non-metallic one, I believe ceramic is non-metallic, you're fine. They're actually great to do. So yeah, just use non-metallic tint and you're fine. And yeah, all the stuff for all the detectors we talk about, links in the video description. My website, I've got reviews of all of them, setup guides, just always want to mention that. So that's always available. Links to buy them, they're all down there too. Barry, will Escort update the Max 360 to be as competitive? There is an update coming for the Max 360 and the Max 360C. It's going to be adding two things specifically, maybe more, but the auto JTK stuff, if you want to use Escort's laser jammers, finally it's going to be able to automatically turn off the laser jammers. And then also it's got the, what's it called? The K-notch to help filter out the additional Hondas and Acuras, like the Redline 360C has or the Max 3. They're going to be adding that to the Max 360 and the Max 360C. So expect better laser jammer features and better blind spot filtering. I don't know what else they're going to be adding, if there's going to be more than that too, but you can expect those at least. John, I thought I heard some alerting with the Spectre. I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe it did. Spectres do sometimes false, which is kind of annoying. They just beep, give you like a weak blip like that. And that's actually kind of one of the tough things sometimes from the officer's perspective is sometimes the weak blips, especially if you crank the sensitivity up to max, you're going to be getting more falses. So if you actually look in the manual for the Spectre, here, I'll grab it real quick to show you. So if you look at the front of these Spectres, you've got a volume knob right here, and then the outer knob, kind of like the V1 Gen 1s, you had the two knobs, right? So this is going to be your sensitivity knob. So at the, was this 3 o'clock position, this is standard sensitivity. They normally recommend running it here. And you can even see if you look at the knob, there's kind of a black section right there. And it's, yeah, if you go all the way down like this is maximum sensitivity. You do get a little bit better detection range, but you also get more false alerts. So they recommend running it at kind of standard sensitivity. Anyway, without going too crazy about Spectre stuff, yeah, Redline is stealth. I guess that's really what you need to know. And yeah, these things do false sometimes too, just like radar detectors, to be honest. So I'll get all my stuff laid out here for the video so I can grab whatever and I'll have a little cleaning to do after the video. N something really cool Arabic looking name, I guess. Hi, what's the best radar detector to go? In the US with, if you don't want to do any setting stuff, that's where Redline 360C comes into play. And again, as we mentioned, if you don't want to mess with the settings and the phone and stuff, get the Redline 360C. If you do, grab the V1. Those are the two best ones. And there's cool stuff you can do with the V1 to where you can set it up to automatically change your settings for you as you drive around or whatever. But that's where you're getting into more of the like enthusiast who loves to customize and control and tweak. Totally. That's where it really seems to shine. So sometimes I kind of wonder if it's like the difference between, you know, driving a stick shift versus an automatic. Most people are going to want the automatic. Some people love driving a stick and are like, I want the control. I love the experience. I want that. Go grab a stick. And a lot of times I feel like the V1 is driving a stick. It's going to give you that control, but it's also going to make you be more involved and you're going to want to do more with the experience. And if that's what you want, V1 all the way. If you want the automatic transmission, so to speak, Redline 360C. That's maybe actually one of the best analogies I could think right now of doing all that. Matthew, city, highway, or advanced for the R7? Whatever you need. Highway's full sensitivity. City's going to back it down. I usually run maybe advanced K-band like 60%-ish, or if I really want it to be quiet, I'll switch down to just city mode, which is going to really cut down K-band sensitivity. And I always forget where it is. I think it's at like 16% sensitivity or 12, or I forget where it is. It's just heavy reduction of K-band to keep it as quiet as possible and cut down on range too. But if you really, really, really want a quiet detector, run it in city mode, especially if you don't have a lot of K-band around. If you want a more maybe balanced detector, run with it around 60, 70%. If you're out driving, there's not a ton of false alerts and you're in the twisties or something and you need all the sensitivity you can get, run it in highway mode or advanced 100%. Same thing, I guess, but we'll just say highway mode for full sensitivity. Oh, confusion with the names. Max 3 versus Max 360C. And one of the biggest ones I'm seeing is Max 360C versus Redline 360C. They're both the 360C, and we've also always called the Max 360C the 360C, but now we also have the Redline 360C, so the naming stuff is getting a little bit confusing on what detector are you referring to. So let's see. Lawrence, thank you for the super chat donation. I really appreciate it. Have you ever encountered VASCAR? For us, you can do VASCAR and radar guns. Like a lot of the guns here, like the Stalker DSR-2X, has VASCAR built in and stuff. But here, at least here in Washington, they'll do it with the aircraft enforcement. And they'll fly overhead and actually just have cameras that can go and just track your speed, and they'll radio down to, you know, officers down on the ground, the chase cars essentially, and say, there's, boom, this car, lane 1, black SUV, white convertible, whatever, doing 82 miles an hour, whatever it is, and the chase car will just go down and pick them up. So that's how the VASCAR stuff works. Radar and laser don't help. Some people will actually listen to police scanners and listen to all that, or the easier thing to do is actually just run JBV1 or highway radar, actually. There's apps that just do all that tracking for you and let you know when the planes are up in the air. So, and yeah, you can run those apps with any detector. and you can run them standalone, all that kind of stuff. So that's usually the best counter to VASCAR, more so than the radar detectors, because VASCAR doesn't trigger your radar detectors. So that's a solution to that. I got to go. My wife wants the TV back and said that's the guy that makes you buy stuff. I am not the guy who's going to, well, I'm not going to be the guy who's only going to tell you to get one thing. I try a lot of times, but if you try to do my stuff, I'm going to wind up with a lot of detectors. And if you want a lot of exciting stuff too, you'll probably wind up with a lot. So I don't do a great job of getting you to just get one thing, I guess. But that's just me. I like having a lot of stuff too. So, hey, it's funny. Night Owl Tack. R3 is a great unit and worth it. 100%. I mean, yeah, it's dropped now from $400 to $300. So $300, it's the best detector you'll get. Great range, MRCD, manual lockouts, low speed muting, red light camera alerts, R3 all day long. So yeah, it's a great detector. And I guess that's one of the things people are always like, well, there's a new one that comes out, but that doesn't mean the older ones that have previously existed are suddenly bad or they suddenly suck. Of course not. They're still great detectors. It's just newer ones have newer features. Cool. Lawrence. Thanks, Lawrence. Yeah. And you're welcome. Alex, got to go. Thanks for all your hard work. Yeah. Cheers. Enjoy. Thanks for hanging out. Let's see. Explore Casper. R3 and R7 false less than the Redline 360C on KA. There's actually been some issues with the Redline 360C falsing to the M1 Dashcam. I've actually got both here. I've been trying to replicate it. One or two people in the forums have been finding the M1, if you put it next to the Redline 360C, will make it false to KA band, which I think is crazy. I ran it today for a little while. I haven't been able to replicate it, and I've been trying to do the same things with like pointing it right at the dash cam with Wi-Fi on. I haven't been able to get mine to false to KA, but I know some people have reported that, and it seems to be down to the M1. But if you can turn off Wi-Fi with the button on top, and it should resolve that. But I haven't been able to replicate that. My Max 3, I've had two of these. My first one falls to KA quite a bit. The second one that I have hasn't falsed at all. So I'm not really sure what's up with that. But yeah, some of these things, depending on the situation, they do false. My R7 actually falses for my Blackview dash cam. Not this one, but the DR900S. If I have 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi on, it'll actually make my R7 false to KA band. So I have to either space them out a little bit or just switch over to 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So yeah, all this stuff going around, they cause each other to false. It's a thing. Aaron Moore, can I use the V1 Gen 2 with the old Savvy? Yes, it's just one Savvy, and you can use it with the newer V1 or the old V1. It works just fine. Let's see. John Ross, Vortex, I can confirm both Max platform and the R7 with the V1 or with the M1 and Wi-Fi on. Yeah, does your M1, does it cause, are you saying your Max and your R7 to false to KA with the M1? Yeah, I'm curious. Let me know, because that's something I just found out about, I think, yesterday or today or something. I've been learning more about that situation too. Let's see. EB, please suggest a radar detector and laser jammer setup. Detector must be RDD immune, as I live in Canada. Yeah, if you're in Canada, usually the Redensos are the way to go. The Redenso RCM, it's a good one because you get the MRCD stuff and whatnot. John, causes it to false with Wi-Fi on. Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying. I wonder if I'd have to check the manual to see if there's a way to just have Wi-Fi off by default. I hope so, and only turn it on as needed. But yeah, the Redenso RCM I think is probably the best one. The only maybe caveat is I've noticed the rear antenna, depending on how high it's mounted in your car, can be detected. So maybe it would make sense to get it with the front antenna only for a stealthier setup. But it's mostly stealth. It's got the MRCD stuff that you want and good BSM filtering, and you can pair it with the ALP and integrate it, which is going to be the best laser jammer to run in Canada as well, especially if you're in a place that uses a lot of Dragon Eye, and there's quite a bit in Canada. So usually the RCM and ALP is the go-to solution up in Canada. So that's the way to go there. I think you get them from, I forget who the distributor is up in Canada. I know Alex at knph.ca. He's the one who sells the ALP. I'm not sure about the RCM. I'd have to double check on that. If you get it up there, there's a discount code on my website for Alex if you want to get the, I think some of the Redenso stuff and the ALPs as well. You can take a look at that. That's up there too, so you can check it out. Don't be sending your equipment away. Save them for Christmas giveaways. I've been thinking about that. Yeah. Doing a giveaway at the end of the year. I think that could be fun. So I haven't figured out exactly which ones I do or I want to do, but yeah, that should definitely be fun thinking about that. Explore Casper. 9500X is not a good performer. If money is an object, get an R3. Totally. EB, yeah, thanks, Vortex. Cost is not a factor. Yeah, AOP and RCM. It's the way to go. Marlon, have you thought about selling your Bowflex in favor of a Total Gem? I don't actually know much about the Total Gem. My wife was actually the one who wanted to get these originally, and I use them now too, and they're great. I've been really happy with them. They're good for goblet squats and everything. I mean, they're good, but yeah, let me know about the Total Gem. Alligator window tint. Thanks for the super chat donation. I have a mobile business in Florida, lift a Chevy truck, 70,000 miles a year. Wow. Okay, so you drive a lot. R7, 360 or Redline 360C. Opinion, please. Okay, so I know we kind of went into that as far as like at the beginning of the video, sort of delineating those. But in case you missed them, can you give me a little bit more information as far as, do you want something more plug and play, or what's important to you in terms of range? Do you hate false alerts, or are you okay with some? What about your budget? Those are kind of some of the things that I think will help sort of narrow things down. And then when you say 360, do you mean Max 360 or Max 360C? It's interesting. The Max 360C, it's $100 less than the Redline 360C, and I think it's kind of been eclipsed at this point. I don't really see a good reason to get it, because if you're spending $650, spend $750. Spend the extra $100 for the better range, better BSM filtering, and RDD immunity. The Max 360C, it's still a good detector. Don't get me wrong. It's just the Redline is, I think for those two specifically, it's worth the money. But the Max 360, it's the same price as the R7, the $500. Uniden, longer range. The Escort, better false alert filtering. That's kind of the trade-off there. Versus the Escort Redline 360C, sort of the best of both worlds. The range of the Uniden and even better false alert filtering than any of them. So, yeah, the Redline 360C is, I think, kind of going to be the best of all those options, but R7 or Max 360 would be kind of your less expensive option if you're looking to save some cash. With a business, writing it off, might as well spend the extra cash. That's true. And tax deductible for your car, so that's true. And yeah, 70,000 miles, that's a lot of driving. It's a lot of driving. Best dash cam for daytime and night Toonami. Maybe VFO A119 V3, just because it's got great video quality, the 1440p. And I found a lot of the 4K dash cams, their low light sensitivity starts to struggle. It starts to go down. Maybe just due to the smaller pixels. I'm not sure exactly why that's the case, but right now I think 1440p is sort of the sweet spot for quality, resolution, and low light sensitivity. So if you want to do that, I've got a review on my YouTube channel. You can check it out. VFO A119 V3. It's a good one. At single channel only, there's only a front version. So you can always buy two of them and do front and rear and just run two independently if you want a 2-channel setup. That could be a great option. Blue Hemi. I wrote off detectors when I did RV transport. I was 1099, yeah. Was that drink bourbon? Yep. Whiskey. Almost done, by the way. So it's good. North Carolina troopers are married to the Pro Laser. Super popular gun. Most common gun around the country. PL4. And yeah, if you guys see it, the white one is Pro Laser 3. The black one is Pro Laser 4. Easy way to tell. But Vortex. V1 Gen 2 is better laser detection than all the other top detectors? I believe so. Oh, potato cannon. Can you say that dash cam model slowly? Yeah, I'll type it in. VFO A119 V3. Search my YouTube channel. You'll find a review of it. It's like a 20 or 30 minute long video. It goes into detail about the dash cam. It's like $120 or something. But yeah, it's a good one. Just take a look there. You'll find all the information about it. Let's see. Video froze. KA-band guns for testing, you can get really anyone. You can find them on eBay. Just a lot of times, maybe get the frequencies that are in use in your area. If you see a lot of 34.7, get a Stalker ATR. 35.5, catered Genesis or a custom Golden Eagle, you can get cheap. 33.8, maybe a Python, the MPH Python over the B3s, you can get cheap at 33.8. So just hunt around on the forums or on eBay, and you can find what you want. If you're looking for a KA-band radar gun, just hop on eBay. You'll find them. So either that or forums are the places to go. Rich M. Another Thea question. Let's see. Redenso Thea is not going to change. It's going to change the game on BSM filtering by not cutting down range. Correct. a lot of the filters that we find right now, the filters do compromise range in order to try to get better filtering, versus Thea could just look at all of them at max sensitivity and just know what the difference is. So as far as I can tell so far, it's not going to have to do the range reduction in order to get good BSM filtering. So that's, I think, another interesting thing, especially if you have a lot of K-band in your area. Man down. I just bought the VFO A129 Pro Duo. Great dash cam. I actually really like it. I was having issues with, where is it? One of my fuses went out. You can still, it's kind of blown out. You can see right here for my dash cam batteries. I'll put it up right here. It's in focus. So I actually had to I ordered some other fuses. I got 2 of them. This is the other one. Or sorry, not fuses, relay. Another relay, swapped it in. So for a little while, I was running without my Blackview dash cams, and I grabbed the A129 Duo. Awesome. Better quality than the Blackviews. You got your parking mode stuff. You got GPS, Wi-Fi, all that stuff. A129 Duo, I'm very happy with. Low light sensitivity is a little bit less than the 1440p dash cams, but it's also got higher resolution for even more detail. And it's got the rear dash cam too. It's a solid option. It has Wi-Fi, the VFO doesn't, or the A119 doesn't. So it's definitely a good pick. Best place to purchase a LiDAR gun, the Jones, same place, eBay or the forums. You can find them there all day long. The PL4 I bought off the forums from somebody else, another enthusiast. Oh gosh, do I wait for Thea or buy the Redline 360C? One of the most common questions. I don't have a good answer to that. I mean, if you want something today, get the Redline 360C. You can always sell it later and swap it out for Thea if you find that Redline 360C is not good enough or Thea blows it out of the water. Totally. But a lot of times that's should I wait for the next model of your car or should I wait for the next phone? But to be fair, we know it's going to be coming out toward the end of this year. We don't know exactly when this year, but you can wait if you want. If you want something now, get the Redline. If you want to wait for Thea, do that. But still going to have to test Thea and wait for it to come out and all that. So I don't have a good answer to that. It's a great question. I don't know. Let's see. What about you guys? Yeah, okay. So I know High Tech Redneck 19. Personally, I'm waiting. Blue Hemi, depends on the situation. Thea for sure, given Escort's recent flops on initial launches. I hope Redenso actually has a really solid launch. This is going to be the first time they're launching their own radar detector that they've built. That's not an Attawave or Genevo product. That's theirs. So I hope they do a good job too. And they have a really talented team of people that they brought on board. So I definitely have high hopes for it, but we got to see once we actually start testing what it's like, Let's see. Earl, I watched your videos for a while. Thank you. I hope you've been enjoying them. If you've been watching for a while, I guess that's a good thing. Carl Mark, have you reviewed the Garmin Speak Plus Dashcam? None of the Garmin ones I've been a big fan of. I love the Garmin GPS stuff. I used Garmin, what was it, the 62 CSX or whatever? I used it as a hiking GPS years ago before they were really popular in cars. I even ran on my dash. I love the Garmin GPS stuff, but I haven't really been impressed with their dash cam stuff. They've got the brand name, but I haven't really seen good stuff from the dash cam side itself. So I haven't really spent a lot of time looking at it just because I look at it and I'm like, meh, to be honest. Let's see. Night Owl. I'll get a Thea, and it seems like it'll be available 2020 or early 2021. Yeah, so hopefully 2020. That's what Redenso has still been saying. So I'm definitely looking forward to it too. Rich M. Any update on auto lockouts for the R7? Take a look at my video, new and updated radar detectors from earlier this past week. I actually have a section talking about that specifically. John Ross. Any loss in value to sell the Redline or the Valentine 1 Gen 2 if Thea is as good as promoted? The small value loss is not worth getting a ticket. That's a really good point. I mean, if you get this now, let's say it costs you $100 or $200 to run this for the next however many months, that alone is worth it. Call it a rental fee or whatever. Just maybe save the box if you want to try maximizing your resale value. I don't know. It's going to be really, it does the job now by all means. And yeah, if it gives you a bunch of saves now, paid for itself easily. And whatever it costs you in loss in terms of resale, it's going to make up in terms of save. So if you want something great now and then you want to upgrade to something better later, it's a great option. And I guess maybe this comes back to what I'd said earlier about I'm not the type of guy who's going to tell you to get only one detector. So that's just my natural thing. I love having the latest and greatest thing, but your preference, And John, it sounds like you're in a similar boat there too. Marlon, have you ever used Escort's trade-in program? No. They give you like $80 max for your detector, and you can go sell it for several hundred online. It's not worth it. It's easier, sure, but you'll make way more if you go sell it yourself on Facebook or Craigslist or eBay or something. It's easier just to trade it in, but you're not going to get the most for your money if you do that. It's funny, speaking of which, Valentine has actually stopped doing trade-ins on the Gen 2. If you buy one, you can get it sooner, but if you send in your Gen 1 for an upgrade, they've stopped doing upgrades on those, and so you're going to be waiting forever. And they give you 100. How much is it? 100 something for the Gen 1? When you can go and sell it on eBay or whatever and get more and put the money towards this and get it a lot sooner. So they've stopped accepting trade-ins for the Gen 2s. So 110. Okay, thanks, Mike. You can get way more than the 110 if you trade it in. Let's see. Is the Escort X70 still an entry-level detector? Yeah. Do they still sell it? I know they replaced it with the X80, which, yeah, the Passport was the first one, and the X70 stripped out Bluetooth, and the X80 added to the newer Bluetooth LE chip or something. It's a basic detector. It's an M4, not the greatest range or false alert filtering, and the X70 doesn't have GPS, so it's more comparable to, like, I guess, a unit in DFR 6 or something. DFR 8, maybe DFR 8. I would say is a closer thing. No, that's my take on the X70 right now. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad detector. It's just there's other options that are better for the money, and yeah. Let's see. When programming the R7, does segmentation like 258, does it mean you should have 258 on and the rest off? Correct. So you'd have, yeah, just those segments on specifically, and you turn the other ones off. That's band segmentation. Let's see. Disable keyband. Is the Redline 360C the best for range and BSM filtering for keyband falsing currently? Okay, so is it a bunch better than my R7? Is the range better on the Redline 360C? No. It's in the same ballpark. I've noticed they kind of trade back and forth. Maybe one's a little bit better sometimes. The other one's a little bit better sometimes. That's not where you're going to be seeing the difference. If you're upgrading for range, you're going to be disappointed. What you're going to be getting with the R7, it's better blind spot filtering. That is definitely noticeable. You get the auto lockouts. You get the Bluetooth to pair with your phone. You can change settings directly from the phone. You get the Wi-Fi. You get the cloud alerts. You get the speed limit on the display. The updates are way easier. The updates are a pain in the butt on the R7. They're a piece of cake on the Redline 360C. It's actually RDD immune versus the R7 isn't. And, you know, I mean, there's just a lot of advantages for the Redline over the R7. And I kind of feel bad about it just because I like the R7. Don't get me wrong. It's a great detector, but I just feel like it's been eclipsed in almost every way by the Redline 360C. I think the closer competitor to the Redline 360C, as I mentioned, is the V1 Gen 2 with JBV1 or V1 driver. That is going to be a closer competitor to the R7, or sorry, to the Redline 360C. I think the R7 kind of lags behind a little bit. Vortex, you still open to doing videos with members from RDF? Totally. I am kind of behind. I got something itching in the back of my neck. I did an interview with some guys in Russia, and I just keep pushing that back, the editing. It's like an hour-long talk and stuff, just because I'm like focused on Max 3 and Redline 360C and new V1 update and new Blackview Dashcam and stuff. So those are kind of taking the priority. Some stuff like the interviews just keep getting pushed back. So I'm open to it. Let me know. Just shoot me a PM and let me know what you'd like to talk about. If it's something that I could edit pretty quickly, that would definitely help just on the time thing. But yeah, let me know. I love doing interviews with awesome people like yourself who are super knowledgeable and into this. That would be fun. So let me know. Is the R7 range better than the R3? IzzyBot is wondering. Yes, but not necessarily always noticeably. The difference is, so R7, R3, the condenser lens, the piece of plastic that they have right here is a little bit different between the two. And so for that reason, they've been able to improve the sensitivity here slightly on the R7. I think it was like 2 or 3 dB or something. It's not going to double or triple your range. It's not going to give you wildly better sensitivity. It does give you a little bit longer range in some situations. In other situations, it's going to be identical. So yes, it technically does give longer range, but that's not really where you're going to see the biggest differences. It's things like maybe the arrows are going to be the biggest difference. This can scan lower down on K-bands. they switch what side the power cable is on. So it's actually on a different side. So that might be a difference depending on how you're routing the cable around and stuff. The mute button is on the side, which I actually prefer the front placement. Here, I actually like the feel of the R3 better than I like the R7. This one I think feels a little bit more cheap than the R3. I actually like the feel in the interaction of the R3 better. And it's more compact. It's tiny, if that matters. I mean, you can look at the difference there. The R3 is definitely smaller. So there's pros and cons to both, but really you're upgrading here, I guess, if you want the arrows and the other little bells and whistles, wider K-band scanning range, things like that. John, absolutely love the instructional videos on JBV1. Thanks. You're welcome. Yeah, that took me a while to get through because there's so much in that app, and it took me a while to get comfortable enough and familiar with it enough to actually be able to sit down and do a video and not sound completely dumb and ignorant about it. And there's still so much about it that I'm still learning, or the app even changes constantly. Like right after I released the video, there was another update that came out that changed the interface and changed some of the buttons and stuff on the display. So that video is already out of date. Like the video changes so much, or sorry, the app changes so much that the video quickly goes out of date. So either way, hopefully it's going to be really helpful for however long it's still kind of relevant and current. But yeah, that was actually a pretty tough one to learn everything about. Blue Hemi, do you think scanners still make a good addition to the countermeasure toolbox? Me is my name. Too much of a distraction. I agreed. I tried running it for a while. I had a unit in, was it the BCD 396 XT or something? I didn't really like it. I was hoping it would be one of those things where they're like, this is officer blah, blah, blah. I'm on I-5, mile marker 297, shooting laser southbound. I hoped it would be something like that. But most of the stuff I listened to was them getting calls and responding to reports for domestic abuse or DUIs or accidents. And I'm like, I don't want to be sitting here listening to all that kind of stuff. It actually gave me a lot of appreciation for all the crazy stuff that cops have to deal with. But I don't want to be listening to all that when I would rather be listening to music or just relaxing and enjoying the drive, you know? I'm not dealing with all the craziness that officers actually have to deal with. It's not, for me at least, it wasn't that useful. But depending on where you're driving, it could be really cool to actually listen to where they're doing it. But I've personally at this point found Waze or JBV1 to be much better. You can get the aircraft enforcement, you can get the crowdsource stuff. I found that to be better without all the distractions of listening to stuff that I don't really want to listen to. So I've never bothered getting back into it. But if you're in a situation out in remote Utah where you're not going to have the internet service, you're not going to have a lot of people reporting stuff, and they also have repeaters for all the police radios, so you can pick them up hundreds of miles away and they'll actually a lot of times tell you where they're going to set up camp. In situations like that, it can totally be useful. But around here, at least in Washington and the Seattle area, I found the apps to actually just be better. So, Slick Top, would you recommend an R7 or a V1 Gen 2 for use in Western Washington? Right now, as long as you're cool with the phone, get the V1 Gen 2. Fewer false alerts, auto lockouts, and the apps are like pretty fantastic, which I guess I've been talking about a lot in this video. But if you don't want to worry about the app stuff, you just want something kind of plug and play, R7. But if you've got a V1 Gen 1, maybe it's going to be a similar experience to the Gen 1. It's got the Bluetooth, so I don't know. If you want the auto lockouts and stuff, you're going to be reliant on your phone. If you want lockouts on the R7, they're manual, but they're built into the Detector. So it comes down to kind of what you want, I guess, in that respect. John, what's the best laser jammer to pair with the Redline 360C? ALP. Just run it by itself, standalone. It doesn't integrate with the Redline 360C, but so what? You just have the little controller wherever and you run it. It's a better jammer than anything Escort makes. They have the ZR5 and the ZW5. They don't jam as well. They're not updated as frequently. You're limited on how many heads you can put in the car to really cover everything. And so it'll work. Don't get me wrong. I've got it on my wife's car. She's got a smaller car, a Honda Fit, like you guys saw in some of the videos, like this latest Max 3 Spectre test. It's a smaller car, so she doesn't need a ton of heads. We've got, PL3s and PL4s and True Speed S and stuff. We don't have Dragon Eyes. So for this specific case, sure, just throw on a ZW5. I've got her set up with the Max 360C, KA band only, by the way. Yeah, I said get the ALP. You can get by with the ZR5 and the ZW5. There is a place for it, and I guess it's nice having the integration here, so you don't have the extra controller. And now that it has the auto JTK stuff, I've warmed to it. But I still say if you're looking for the best, get the ALP. Speaking of ALP, they released an update recently, I think yesterday, 5.6.3, that corrects some of the Dragon Eye stuff that I talked about. And that was actually an interesting one, why that issue was present in the first place. It affected actually, in real life, it didn't have as much of an effect as we thought. It was more of like some of the things we've seen in testing, without going too much into detail about that. But the latest update that they just released has some issues. If you haven't updated your ALP yet, don't update. I'm assuming there's going to be a fix coming out soon, but some people are actually finding issues with the ALP update that just came out. So just a heads up for those of you guys who run an ALP. Yes, it's the best laser jammer, but even the ALP isn't perfect. Stuff happens. But ALP is really, really good about getting these updates out as needed, and I'm sure it's something that they're going to be updating again pretty quickly. That's actually something that they're really good about. Some of the other ones, the other companies, they update, but not as often, not as frequently, and not as well. ALP is not perfect, again, but they do still seem to be, big picture, the best jammer out there. Does Escort update the ZR5s? I think maybe they've only had one update ever. I think that's it. No, they don't update frequently. No. Maybe two at most, but I think just one. Yeah. Marlon, are you amazed how far your channel has come, considering it focuses on a very niche passion of yours? Absolutely. This is so weird. I get to sit at home and talk about radar detectors and make a living doing this. I get to have fun playing with toys for a living, all this kind of stuff, these beeping boxes. And yeah, it is a small niche, totally. It's kind of one of the reasons I also get into Dashcam stuff. Like, there's a lot of overlap. My YouTube channel actually started with Dashcams. I needed a place to post Dashcam footage when I was comparing some. But I do mostly radar detectors and Vortex radar. That's actually my passion. I'm actually really grateful that I'm able to do this, and there is enough of a market. There's enough demand. There's enough people interested in this in the first place that we can sit down and we can live stream here on a Saturday afternoon. There's 150 of you guys watching right now. And we've been going for over an hour just talking about radar detectors. Like, this is crazy. This is wild. It's nice. So I still think it's crazy, and I think it's amazing, and it's awesome. And I'm just super grateful that this is even an opportunity that exists, being able to do something like this on YouTube, playing with tech products and reviewing them. This didn't exist 20 years ago in the same way. So it's a cool time to be alive. I'm really grateful to you guys. Thanks to you guys hanging out here and enjoying this with me. It's thanks to you guys that I'm able to do this in the first place. So I'm really grateful to you guys. Thank you for helping me make this sort of lifestyle a possibility. I really appreciate it. Night Owl, let's see. The ALP firmware issue with TX heads. RX is good. Not sure if the current firmware said breaks all. Yeah, there's an issue. I think the auto JTK stuff, I saw it a little bit. The timer, I think, was off or something. There's some issue we got to take a look at that they're going to be addressing. Let's see. Todd Childs, I'm a Redline fan, but let's see. I love the price, and blah, 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 the R7. Yeah, the R7. $800. Sad, but I understand. My Redline kicks butt in KA. Yeah, the Redline is great for KA band. But yeah, I mean, it lacks the GPS and the arrows, and especially the K-band filtering. So, yeah. Kevin Vincent, thank you for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. Marlon, really grateful for you. Thank you. Yeah. Let's see, Paul, everything is off with the new firmware. What have you seen? I haven't looked a ton as far as like keeping up with the posts and stuff. Just been busy with baby stuff today. But yeah, what's the latest with the new ALP firmware? I haven't actually followed the details on that like really close today. So speak which, I don't know everything. I'm constantly learning and just sharing with you guys. Yeah, this is fun. Let's see, even cops ticket other cops nowadays. Yep. Let's see. Paul is saying for the ALP, power up is inconsistent. Sometimes it takes a while to get in defense mode. Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's kind of crazy. Then you got issues with the GPS kicking in. I guess they were really trying to get on top of the update. Maybe that's what it is. Dwight Green, sharing is caring. Yeah, I care about you guys. I'm grateful. It's fun. I'm just really glad that this is something where we can all learn and benefit, Rich M, thank you for the super chat donation, Rich. I appreciate that. Paul, let's see. Punch throughs with dual TX setups around 800 feet with older guns. Wow. Is the dual TX stuff, is that optimized yet? Or is that really beneficial yet? But you would think dual TX should be pretty solid against older guns. Yeah. Jamie, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. We really appreciate what you do for all of us. Thanks for Canada. You're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks for your support. And I'm just really glad that you're enjoying this and benefiting too. Let's see. Rod Johnson. Any quick trigger test with the new analog S Corp? Nope, I haven't tested that yet. I have noticed that the V1 Gen 2 and the Redline 360C is a little bit slower than some detectors like the Redline 3 or than the R7. The R7 it does false more, but it's actually more reactive on K-band. So small differences, but they are there. But they're still going to work against K-band and that kind of stuff too. Does the Redline 360C detect MRCD? Rich M is asking. Yes, it does detect it. I haven't tested it yet. I've actually got one going up to Canada after the guys in Texas test it. They're going to be doing the MRCD testing. It detects it. I don't know how good the false alert filtering is. When it detects MRCD, just all of the arrows light up. It doesn't give you any sort of arrows for MRCD the way maybe the R7 does. And I don't think it gives you a ramp up either. It just screams full tilt. So it doesn't have the same degree of situational awareness, but does it give you enough range and stuff? I don't know yet. I'm really curious to see with their new SDR platform under the hood, how good it is. I tried turning it on for kicks. I get false alerts, but that's also true with Rodenso and Uniden and anybody else that offers MRCD2 as well. Stinger, they false. So I don't know how good it is yet, but the guys in Canada, once they test it, they'll be able to give us more information. Let's see. Paul, we're talking more about, dual TX stuff. Seems to improved only with a very specific gun. Dual TX is usable with older firmware. TMG with the VPR still can't jam variants, the TrueSpeed LR and the TrueSpeed S. Wow. Should be able to jam the TrueSpeed S. That should be jammable. That's pretty, okay. I haven't done an updated test to the TMG. I've actually been reliant mostly on other people who have been testing it a lot. It's tough to do laser jammer testing, so I'm actually really grateful that a lot of you guys have been doing that one. So I haven't done updated TMG VPR. I haven't done that test yet. But at some point, it'll be fun. Let's see, I can jam a lot, but not all. Let's see. Joe, I wield a Stalker XLR, but most certainly concerned about tickets when I travel out of town. It seems to be worse if they find out a big city cop comes blazing through the little jurisdiction. Does that not help the fact that you're an officer? Does that not get you out of the tickets? Or I figured that would be almost like a get out of jail free card. You see the videos on YouTube. So I'm curious about that. And how do you like the Stalker XLR, I guess, from the position of being an officer? I'm curious about that. Let's see. Johnny Bravo got rid of the CR97 and had a CR90. The R3 is awesome. Had the Whistler since the 1250 over 25 years. Yeah, the R3, it's definitely better than the CR97 for sure. Fewer false alerts, the K and K-band mix up. The range is better. GPS lockouts, all that kind of stuff. Being a cop doesn't stop the chew out if you get pulled over. Do they? I guess they don't maybe you avoid the ticket or something, but they still get mad at you or something, or I don't know how that works. Let's see. Interference when running multiple detectors sometimes causes false or missed alerts. Yep. I guess, issues running more than one radar detector at a time. I've tried it. There's reasons to do it. I've done a video on that. There's reasons sometimes to do that, but it definitely causes problems. And it's one of those things where if you're going to break a rule, you need to know why the rule is there in the first place and all the problems you're going to encounter. So in general, no, don't run two detectors at the same time. Joe, okay, very much so. Yeah, being a cop doesn't stop the other cop from yelling at you if they pull you over for a ticket. That's good to know. Let's see. Enzo Wolf, I could bring my TMG set up there and do some tests if you pick up a VPR gun or two. I don't know. That's just not something that's super interesting to me. There's tons of testing already and everything on it. I don't know if there's a real big need for me to go out and retest it right now. There's already so much good information. I don't know. That's just one of the situations where I don't know if I really need to go out and retest the VPR TMG. I don't know. That's just, that's a whole thing in and of itself. But yeah, there's plenty of test results online. XLR stuff and the menus. Let's see. Okay, here's an interesting one. Godowski17. I'm not sure if you addressed this earlier in the stream, but why do you say the Max 3 would be the best under 400? And why do you recommend that over an R3? Great question, yeah. And that's, I think, a really specific one. I want to do a review of the Max 3. Haven't done the video yet, and I think doing a comparison versus R3 and maybe even Pro M for 450 would be really good. But for those two specifically, they both seem to have good range, but better BSM filtering, auto lockouts. Got the Escort Live stuff. You can do the speed limit on the display. I think that it's not RDD immune the way the R3 seems to be, but most people don't need that. I think for most people, the extra $100 gets you the better BSM filtering and the auto lockouts. That I think is a nice advantage. So if you've got the R3 and you want fewer false alerts, that's where this comes into play. Again, just a simple answer to the question, that's where it comes in. But otherwise, they both do MRCD. They both have multicolor OLED displays. Yay, but yeah. Let's see. Auto lockouts, that kind of stuff. The badge doesn't work on cameras either. That's true, yeah. If you go across like a photo radar, photo laser camera or something, totally. Yeah, wow. Nevada cop passing an off-duty California cop at 1:33 with a wife and kid in the car. That's crazy. Let's see. Mag mount to the Max 3, better BSM, range close to the R3, auto lockouts. Yeah, totally. There's advantages to the Max 3. It's not in every way better because, again, the R3 does have, well, it's cheaper and it's already immune for the most part, it seems. But yeah, better BSM filtering, auto lockouts, better mount for that. So, you know, there's always new stuff coming out, right? So I guess that's the advantage for the extra $100. Car Spear, any net radar updates? Not really. I'm actually not a huge fan of the net radar or the net radar DSP. I just don't really like the what's it called, the interface and stuff with it. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's okay if you want range and a cheap custom install detector with your ALP. That's kind of where that one comes into play. Common 06, any update to the no photo? Mine's been sitting down there in the closet for a while. No updates. It got sold off to Vox. So Redenso doesn't own it anymore. They sold it off. And so it's tough to get. I think you can only get it from like local installers. Last I heard, they were working on the water sealing for the water intrusion stuff. But other than that, yeah. I don't know if there's going to be even any more updates on the no photo at all now that Redenso, the creator of it, or No Limits, technically, they're not involved anymore. Earl Williams, you should discuss safety issues with windshield mount detectors. What do you mean by safety issues? I'm not sure. How is the Redline 360C dealing with the Dragon Eye laser after the software update? There was an issue actually with, apparently it didn't, I know Escort talked about it, this little laser tester that I've got. Here, I'll fire it up real quick while we talk about that. It simulates a bunch of different guns. There was an issue with the Redline 360C not detecting it. Maybe it was a specific version of the Dragon Eye that was recorded. I talked to Escort about it. They said they tried it with 2 different Dragon Eyes and it detected both. So let's actually just do the test here real quick. What is it? 9 presses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. So it detects it now. Okay. So yeah, it looks like they've fixed that one. So that's in place. I know we talked about that earlier. Laser detection in a radar detector isn't super life-changing, critical, reliable, whatever, but at least they fixed that. So yeah. They fly off in accidents. I guess, oh, okay. These things can fly off in accidents. I guess that, yeah, that's possible. That can totally happen. That might actually be a good reason to get a blend mount instead of dealing with the suction cups. That's actually a really good point. Yeah, the blend mount, it's a really solid, secure mount to your rearview mirror. Yeah. I've had a passenger get stitches when a radar detector hit him in the face. Oh, man, I'm so sorry for your passenger. That is a really good point. I've actually never considered that aspect. I really appreciate you bringing that up. But, yeah. So, actually, let's see. Oh, friends are coming over. See you soon. I got the friends actually coming over, some other baby friends. So, we're going to do like the socially distanced hangout thing with masks and all that and hang out. So, now that Luna's awake and their baby's awake, we're all just going to come hang out and chat and stuff. So, yeah. So I guess maybe a couple last things to talk about here before I got to go. So let's see. Aaron Miller, will you be updating the review of the V1 Gen 2 because of the update? I've updated the article a few days ago, actually, on my website, the review. So that one's actually been updated. I can't update a video once it's posted. I have to literally redo the entire thing. But once I get to the, what's it called? Once I do like the comparison video of all of them, I'm going to be kind of addressing that there. Let's see. Earl Williams, you're welcome. Where do I get that mount? I got sued. Dude, I'm really sorry you got sued. So, okay, if you want a blend mount, go to my website. There's actually a link like right on the front page, vortexradar.com, and scroll down. You'll find a link to a blend mount. It's about $100 or so, a little more or less depending on the type of your car you have. And there's a coupon code that it has. If you click the link, it'll give you a coupon. It mounts to your rearview mirror. It like attaches directly to it. So there's no more suction cups or anything. And that's actually a really good point. Oops, I got to give my friends the address of our place. Okay, cool. There we go. Let's see. My dad was in a really bad accident with an old GMC Jimmy. His only injury was a cut on his forehead from his old Micron radar detector. Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry for your dad. They had really sharp edges back then. Yeah, so I guess having a solid mount, that is a great point. That's actually a really good point. I'd never thought about that. I feel kind of, but yeah, if you want a blend mount, I use it all the time for mounting a GoPro in front of a radar detector like this. I hang it above my rearview mirror. You see that? Or even sometimes if detector like this doesn't fit above my rearview mirror, I do this on a blend mount. Or yeah, it's a good option. So good point. If you guys want one, yeah, go to my website and use the coupon there to get a blend mount. I would love a blend mount, but the Virginia police would see it a mile away. That's the downside. It is more visible because it's literally hanging the detector right underneath your rearview mirror. So it's going to be visible, but for safety, yeah, it would help there. Let's see. At this point in time, would you think it would be worth upgrading from an original segmented Redline to a Redline 360C? Oh, totally. Especially if you run it with K-band on. Yeah, if you only run it with Ka-band, not necessarily. I mean, sure, you'll get the Bluetooth, you'll get the arrows. That might be the biggest thing. But if you run it with K-band on, definitely better filtering. You got the arrows, you got MRCD. I mean, yeah, it's worth the upgrade. Is a blend mount available for the Redline 360C? Yes. It uses, do I have it here? No, I have it in the car. It uses the same Easy Mag mount. You're basically it's the same thing here, like this Easy Mag release, and it just hooks up to the rearview mirror. So all of the Max 360C, the IXC, the Max 3, the Redline 360C, they all use the same mount, right? So Max 3, take the same mount, put it on Redline 360C, same one as the Max 360C. It's all the same Easy Mag mount, right? So yeah, get the blend mount. That's a solid option. So yeah, it's compatible with the Redline 360C too. And if you guys, I guess speaking of coupons, because saving money is awesome, use the code REDSETGO when you buy the Redline 360C. When you do it, it's going to give you like the 3-year Defender database. They're the red light cameras and stuff. If you want that, add it to your cart first. You'll see it right there. So 3-year Defender database and the Redline 360C. It's $50 for that. And then when you use the coupon code REDSETGO, it's going to give it to you for free, essentially. On their way. Probably going to have to go here in a couple minutes. Yeah, and Christopher just typed it into the chat box. So anyway, that's a way to do it. The detector is on back order right now. It should be shipping out, I guess, in the next couple weeks or so. We're not exactly sure when, but they're first come, first serve. So as they're getting them in stock, just due to COVID stuff, my voice is starting to go from all the talking. Water, 1 second. You'll be able to get them in. So that's actually been one of the tough things with testing the Redline 360C. It's like we've been trying to get testing in, but they've been tough to get. So there's only so many of these around to even do tests with in the first place. So it's one of the reasons I was like, okay, we need to get some in here. So anyway, okay, I do think I need to go. We've been hanging out here for an hour and a half. So I thank you guys all so much for hanging out, guys and girls, for hanging out. I really enjoyed your time. I really appreciated hanging out here on a Saturday afternoon and just chatting countermeasures. This has been fun. So yeah, if you guys ever have any questions, let me know down in the YouTube comments. Head on to the forums. We've got videos and website with reviews and links to all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's all there. You guys know. You guys know. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys all have a great day, a great night, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.